It's not a secret that there is a lot of stuff in Fallout 76, so much so that there is quite a lot of content that is unused. Unused content refers to content that isn't accessible in the game, but has not specifically been labeled as cut content. Much like cut and removed content, we don't know what content, if any, will make an appearance in the live game, but let's dive in and see what Bethesda has been holding out from us. First up, we have the Cranberry Mirelurk and Mirelurk Queen variants. These would have been pink and red variants of the standard Mirelurk lineup. I assume these would populate the Cranberry Bog region of the map for obvious reasons. It's not clear why they weren't used. Perhaps they were left unused because Bethesda has some far-off plan for pink Mirelurks, or maybe they thought that having naturally pink Mirelurks would be confusing and take away from the more rare Scorched Mirelurk encounters. Next, we have an unmarked location called Greenstone Overlook. There is a texture for a sign indicating that this location was 3,000 feet above sea level. The Greenstone Overlook is a real-world location and is part of the Blue Ridge Parkway. Next up, let's get into the weapons, armor, and apparel that has been unused. Several paints for the T60 power armor are unused, such as a basic yellow and gray paint, the Adam's Cat paint from Fallout 4, and the Presidential paint. The traps from the Fallout 4 DLC, Far Harbor, are in the game files. This includes the Bear Trap, Bleeding Bear Trap, Caltrops, and Poison Caltrops. There's also a mine called Barnes Handmade Mine that was intended for a cut quest. It was an improvised anti-mole rat device, something I really need. I'm tired of these little bastards teleporting everywhere. There is an item called Pretty Floral Bouquet that shares the placeholder stats and model with the machete. This appears to be part of a cut quest called St. Valentine's Day Massacre. There is also a grenade called Expensive Perfume that would have been another reward for this quest. Next, we have the R91 Assault Rifle skin. This has been in the files since Wastelanders, but has yet to be implemented, save for a PC Replacer mod, which I have linked in the description. It may be introduced with the future update as a skin, or hopefully as a standalone weapon. I think the best chance for this happening is with the upcoming expedition to the pit. The R91 was a big part of Fallout 3, and it makes sense that they would implement this weapon as part of what is essentially a throwback to Fallout 3. Now let's move on to the consumables. There is a black variant of Bloodleaf that is unobtainable and has a corresponding steeped tea recipe. There are also recipes for items called Burger Bits, Forage Porridge, Meat Treats, Seed Feed, and Veggie Vittles. There are booze recipes that are unused as well. Firecracker Whiskey would have had melee attacks trigger self-immolation, damaging you and your attacker. Vintage variants would have had ballistic and melee damage add fire, with melee attacks triggering the self-immolation. There are also Firecracker Whiskey Manhattan and old-fashioned variants as well. Toxic Gin would have caused melee attacks to lower a target's damage resistance by 10, with vintage variants adding an additional 10% damage. Toxic Gin and Tonic and Toxic Gin Martinis were also variants that were planned as well. Now on to the unused plans. There are plans for the Beer Keg and Pumpkin Crop that are unused. There is a plan for an emergency kit which seems to be related to a Settler daily quest, as well as a plan for something called a Guards Restock kit, again related to another cut Settler daily quest. There are more playable instruments than the ones that we currently have available, but these, for some reason, are not set up to be usable in the camp or workshop systems. They include a cello, death tambo, flute, guitar sword, harmonica, mouth harp, trumpet, violin, and war drum, as well as a frame drum. There is an unused quest called Extreme Measures that would have tasked the player with assisting the systems at the Robco research facility with fine-tuning its calibration for enhanced interrogation. The dialogue and script notes indicate that type of insincere but pleasant corporate tone you would come to expect from a morally bankrupt pre-war tech conglomerate, followed by the typical psychotic rambling of flawed and corrupt programming, as the robots in the facility aim to complete its task at any cost. There are also some terminal entries that remain unused. There are a series of entries at the AMS headquarters front desk with a welcome message and a layout of each floor, and a series of entries at the Emmett Mountain disposal site that detail the work of a site inspector that complained about his job, received an offer to overlook some dumped waste from West Tech. As he enjoys the profits from this little arrangement, he begins to wonder what exactly is in those barrels, as the residents of Huntersville become green and sickly. There is much unused content in Fallout 76, and its lack of inclusion provides an insight into the game's development and continued support. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like and subscribing.